In our fast-paced, highly connected world, it's easy to get caught up in the need for validation and approval from others. We often find ourselves reacting to the actions, words, and opinions of people around us. But what if there's a more powerful and liberating approach? What if, instead of responding emotionally, we practice the art of indifference? Indifference, when practiced with intention and wisdom, is a concept that aligns deeply with Stoic philosophy. The Stoics, philosophers like Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, emphasized focusing on what is within our control and letting go of the things that are not. One of the things that fall outside our control is the behavior and egos of others. When we stop caring about their reactions and stop feeding their need for attention, we rob their ego of the energy it needs to thrive. It's not about being cold or indifferent in an unhealthy way. Rather, it's about reclaiming our power and peace by not allowing the fragile egos of others to dictate our emotional state. People with large egos are often insecure and seek constant validation to prop up their self-image. When you stop engaging with them emotionally and remove your attention, they begin to lose their grip. The ego crumbles when it no longer gets the reactions it seeks. In this sense, indifference becomes an incredibly powerful tool. By choosing not to engage, not to react, and not to get pulled into their drama, you preserve your inner peace and strength. The key is not to let their behavior disturb your tranquility. Throughout this article, we'll explore practical tips on how to use the power of indifference to disarm egos and maintain your mental and emotional well-being. By practicing these Stoic principles, you'll learn how to disengage from the destructive cycles of ego-driven conflict, thus protecting your energy and peace. What are your thoughts on indifference? Have you ever tried using this approach in your interactions with others? I'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective is always valuable. 1. Don't take their words personally. One of the most powerful tools for disarming someone's ego is to stop taking their words personally. It's easy to get caught up in the emotion of a conversation or argument, especially when someone's words seem pointed, harsh, or designed to provoke. But the first step in cultivating indifference and following Stoic wisdom is to recognize that what others say is a reflection of them, not of you. The ego's need for validation. People with fragile egos often use words as a weapon to gain control, assert dominance, or seek validation. When they speak, it's often less about you and more about their own need to inflate their sense of self-worth. Their comments may come from a place of insecurity, jealousy, or a desire to make themselves feel superior. When we internalize their words and take them personally, we give their ego power over us. From a Stoic perspective, this can be damaging. The Stoics teach that external events, including the words and actions of others, are outside of our control. We cannot control what people say, but we can control how we react to it. As Epictetus, one of the foremost Stoic philosophers, wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By not taking others' words personally, we can choose a response rooted in inner peace rather than being dragged into emotional turmoil. The power of detachment. To stop taking their words personally, the first step is to develop emotional detachment. This doesn't mean being apathetic or indifferent to the feelings of others, but it means not letting someone else's words determine how we feel about ourselves. Imagine a situation where someone criticizes you or says something hurtful. The natural response might be to defend yourself, retaliate, or feel wounded. However, by adopting a Stoic mindset, you recognize that their words are not a reflection of your worth, but rather a manifestation of their own struggles, insecurities, or desires. Think of it this way: if you walked into a room and someone threw a stone at you, you wouldn't catch it and carry it with you. You'd simply let it fall. Similarly, when someone throws hurtful words your way, do not internalize them or let them affect your mood. Instead, observe the words as a detached observer, understanding that they are just words and they don't define who you are. Understanding their perspective. Another helpful Stoic technique is to remind yourself that their words may come from a limited or distorted perspective. People often speak based on their own experiences, biases, and emotional states. Their words are shaped by their past experiences and internal struggles. Just because someone criticizes you doesn't mean their perspective is accurate or valid. In fact, their criticism might not be about you at all. It might be more about their need to project their own insecurities or frustrations. Acknowledge that everyone is on their own personal journey, and their words often reflect their internal battles. When you recognize this, it becomes much easier to avoid taking their words personally. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "When someone does you wrong, it's because they're acting in accordance with their nature." In other words, people speak based on their nature and circumstances, not necessarily with malicious intent toward you. The freedom of letting go. By not taking others' words personally, you give yourself the freedom to remain unaffected. This freedom is not just emotional, it's liberating in every sense of the word. When you stop absorbing the opinions and judgments of others, you create space for your own truth and peace to flourish. Instead of reacting out of defensiveness or hurt, you can maintain a sense of calm and clarity. The more you practice this detachment, the easier it becomes to brush off the negative words of others. You'll start to feel less influenced by external criticism or praise, and instead, you'll build your self-worth from within. The Stoics believed in finding strength through self-reliance and not relying on the validation of others. Maintain emotional distance. In today's emotionally charged world, it's easy to get swept up in the feelings of those around us, especially when someone's behavior or words provoke us. However, maintaining emotional distance is a powerful Stoic practice that can protect your inner peace and help you avoid being manipulated by the egos of others. By learning to separate your emotions from external circumstances, you gain greater control over how you respond to situations, rather than being at the mercy of your emotional reactions. The concept of emotional distance is rooted in the Stoic belief that our emotions are within our control, while external events, including the actions of others, are not. Stoics like Epictetus and Seneca believed that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can control how we react. This is critical when it comes to dealing with people who try to provoke emotional responses through their egos. When you respond emotionally to their behavior, you give away your power and allow them to control your state of mind. Instead, by maintaining emotional distance, you retain control of your reactions and avoid getting entangled in their drama. Emotional distance doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent to others' feelings. Rather, it's about not letting someone else's behavior dictate your emotional state. This requires developing a heightened sense of self-awareness and mindfulness. For example, if someone says something hurtful or challenging, instead of immediately reacting, take a deep breath and observe your feelings. Notice if you feel anger, hurt, or frustration welling up inside you. Acknowledge these emotions without judgment, but resist the urge to act on them. The key is to give yourself space before you respond, ensuring that your reaction comes from a place of calm and clarity rather than emotional impulse. A great Stoic exercise to help with emotional distance is to practice the idea of premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This exercise involves mentally preparing for potential negative situations and imagining how you will handle them. By anticipating challenges and emotional triggers before they happen, you train yourself to maintain your composure when faced with difficult people or situations. It helps you detach from the outcome and focus on how you will respond, rather than letting the situation dictate your emotions. Another Stoic technique is to remind yourself that other people's behavior is often a reflection of their own internal struggles, not a direct reflection of who you are. When someone's ego pushes their insecurities onto you, recognize that it's not about you, it's about them. Their words and actions are often a result of their own fears, desires, or unmet needs. By maintaining emotional distance, you avoid internalizing their issues and keep your peace intact. Ultimately, the practice of maintaining emotional distance allows you to rise above the drama and turbulence created by others' egos. It helps you stay grounded in your values, reactions, and sense of self-worth, rather than being swayed by external forces. The more you practice emotional distance, the easier it becomes to preserve your tranquility and navigate challenging interpersonal situations with grace and wisdom. 3. Refuse to react to manipulation. Manipulative people often use subtle tactics to control or influence others, especially when they feel threatened or insecure. These individuals typically rely on emotional triggers to elicit a specific reaction from you, feeding their ego in the process. Whether it's guilt-tripping, playing the victim, or making passive-aggressive remarks, their ultimate goal is to draw you into their web of emotional manipulation. A key Stoic practice for protecting your peace is to refuse to react to manipulation, a strategy that not only diffuses the manipulator's power, but also strengthens your inner resilience. The Stoics believed that external events are outside our control, but our reactions are entirely within our power. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that it is not the people or events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When someone tries to manipulate us, it's crucial to recognize that their behavior is simply an attempt to control our emotions, often out of their own insecurity or need for validation. The Stoic approach to this is not to react emotionally, but to stand firm in our understanding of what is truly within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. Manipulators thrive on emotional reactions because these responses affirm their sense of power over you. For instance, if someone plays on your guilt by constantly bringing up past mistakes or sacrifices, the manipulator may be seeking to elicit feelings of responsibility or sympathy from you. When you respond by apologizing or justifying your actions, you reinforce their sense of control. On the other hand, when you refuse to react, remaining calm and unaffected by their attempts to trigger you, you deny them the satisfaction of seeing you emotionally involved in their game. Refusing to react does not mean ignoring or tolerating harmful behavior. It simply means that you choose not to be emotionally swayed or controlled by it. For example, if someone criticizes you in a way that feels manipulative, instead of defending yourself or getting upset, simply acknowledge their comment in a neutral way or let it pass without giving it emotional weight. You might say, "I hear what you're saying," or "That's your perspective," but you don't allow their words to dictate your emotional state. A helpful Stoic exercise for refusing to react to manipulation is to practice mental preparation. Before entering potentially triggering situations or conversations, remind yourself that the actions of others are outside of your control and that they may attempt to provoke a response. By mentally preparing yourself for these manipulative tactics, you can anticipate them and remain unshaken in the face of manipulation. Additionally, remember that manipulators often project their own insecurities, fears, or needs onto others. When you maintain this perspective, it becomes easier to see through their attempts at control and to avoid getting tangled up in their emotional games. recognize that their manipulative behavior is a reflection of their own vulnerabilities, not a reflection of your worth or value. This understanding helps to create emotional distance and makes it easier to refuse manipulation. Ultimately, by refusing to react to manipulation, you protect your emotional energy and maintain control over your responses. This Stoic practice empowers you to stand firm in your personal boundaries, ensuring that you are not swayed by the egos and insecurities of others. In doing so, you preserve your peace and prevent manipulators from gaining any power over you. 3. Refuse to react to manipulation. Manipulative people often use subtle yet powerful tactics to control or influence others, especially when they feel threatened or insecure. These individuals tend to play on your emotions, guilt-tripping, using passive-aggressive comments, or presenting themselves as victims to draw out specific reactions that ultimately feed their ego. A key Stoic practice for maintaining your peace and protecting your mental space is to refuse to react to manipulation. By doing so, you not only disarm the manipulator, but also reinforce your own emotional resilience. The Stoic philosophers, such as Epictetus and Seneca, taught that while we cannot control what others do or say, we can control how we respond. Manipulation thrives on our emotional responses, our defensiveness, guilt, or anger. When we react emotionally, we essentially give the manipulator control over our feelings. For example, if someone uses guilt to make you feel responsible for their happiness or actions, reacting defensively only strengthens their hold over you. Instead, when you choose not to react, you stop feeding into their ego-driven manipulation. Refusing to react does not mean tolerating bad behavior. It means remaining calm and composed, regardless of what others throw your way. When someone manipulates you, acknowledge their words or actions without allowing them to trigger a response from you. This can be as simple as saying, "I hear what you're saying," without further engagement, or just staying silent and maintaining your composure. This neutral response keeps your emotional energy intact and denies the manipulator the emotional reaction they are seeking. One Stoic technique that helps with this is premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This involves mentally preparing for difficult interactions or challenges. By anticipating that someone may attempt to manipulate you, you can remind yourself in advance that their behavior is not a reflection of you, but rather a product of their own insecurities. The more you mentally prepare for these scenarios, the less likely you are to be swayed or drawn into their emotional games when the situation arises. Another critical aspect of refusing to react to manipulation is to recognize that the manipulator's actions are rooted in their own emotional needs or fears. People who manipulate others are often projecting their own vulnerabilities, and their behavior says more about their inner struggles than about you. By understanding this, you can view the manipulation through a lens of detachment, which makes it much easier to refuse a reaction. In essence, when you refuse to react to manipulation, you regain control over your emotional state, maintaining your peace and preventing the manipulator from gaining power over you. This practice strengthens your emotional boundaries, allowing you to navigate difficult relationships and situations with wisdom and calm. What are your thoughts on handling manipulation? Have you found yourself getting drawn into emotional games in the past? I'd love to hear your perspective. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below the video. Your input is always valuable. 4. Focus on your own growth, not their opinion. One of the most empowering practices for neutralizing someone's ego is to stop obsessing over their opinions and focus instead on your own personal growth. Often, we get trapped in the cycle of worrying about how others perceive us. Whether it's trying to impress others, seeking approval, or defending our worth, We allow their judgments to influence our emotions and actions. This is where the Stoic philosophy offers a profound solution. Focus on your own growth, not their opinion. The Stoics taught that our inner peace and happiness should not be contingent upon external validation. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When we focus too much on the opinions of others, we shift our attention away from what we can control, our actions, our mindset, and our personal development. Their opinions become distractions, steering us away from our true purpose and self-improvement. Focusing on your own growth means investing your energy in what truly matters, becoming a better version of yourself, regardless of how others view you. Rather than seeking external approval, turn your attention inward. This involves setting personal goals, refining your skills, and striving to live according to your values. By prioritizing your own development, you shift your focus away from the approval or disapproval of others, which in turn weakens the influence of their egos. The Stoics believed that we should only concern ourselves with what is within our control. Your growth, your behavior, and your reactions are all within your power. Someone else's opinion of you is outside of your control, and therefore not worth investing emotional energy in. When you stop seeking validation and begin to focus on self-improvement, you gain independence from others' judgments. You also create space for genuine relationships based on mutual respect rather than ego-driven validation. A helpful practice for focusing on your own growth is to regularly reflect on your progress. Take time each day or week to assess your personal development and identify areas for improvement. This can include anything from learning new skills, improving emotional intelligence, or simply aligning more closely with your core values. Instead of asking, "What do they think of me?" shift the question to, "Am I progressing toward my personal goals?" This shift in perspective allows you to measure your worth by your own standards, not by the ever-changing opinions of others. By focusing on your own growth, you not only protect yourself from being dragged into the drama of others' egos, but also create a life that is grounded in your own principles and aspirations. When you stop seeking external validation, you begin to live a life that is more authentic and fulfilling. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever found yourself overly concerned with someone's opinion? How do you shift your focus back to your own growth? Share your experiences and comments below the video. I'd love to continue the conversation with you. Set clear boundaries. One of the most effective ways to manage interactions with individuals whose egos seek to dominate or manipulate is to set clear boundaries. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. Rather, they are a way to protect your emotional and mental well-being while maintaining healthy relationships. By clearly defining what is acceptable behavior and what isn't, you reinforce your own values and prevent others from exploiting your energy or influencing your emotions. In Stoic philosophy, boundaries are a crucial part of maintaining internal peace. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control the actions of others, we have full control over how we engage with them. Setting boundaries allows you to stay true to your values and protect yourself from being drawn into unnecessary drama or conflict. By not tolerating disrespect or manipulation, you create space for more meaningful, positive interactions, while also safeguarding your emotional balance. Setting boundaries starts with recognizing what behaviors you will not accept. For example, if someone is constantly making hurtful or dismissive comments, it's important to assertively communicate that their behavior is not acceptable to you. Stoics like Epictetus taught that we have the power to choose our responses to external circumstances, and that includes setting limits on how others treat us. It's essential to let others know where your lines are and be firm in enforcing them without feeling guilty or apologetic. A common challenge in setting boundaries is the fear of conflict or the desire to please others. People with fragile egos may resist or even react aggressively to your boundaries, especially if they are used to getting their way. However, the key to maintaining your boundaries is consistency. When you communicate your limits and stick to them, you send a clear message that you will not tolerate behaviors that undermine your peace of mind. Over time, this helps to establish mutual respect and reduces the chances of being manipulated or controlled. An important aspect of boundary setting is to remember that it's not about controlling others, it's about controlling your own responses. Boundaries are a form of self-respect and self-care. They allow you to choose how much of your time, energy, and emotional investment you're willing to give to others. By prioritizing your own needs and protecting your mental space, you build stronger relationships with people who respect your boundaries, while simultaneously detaching from those who don't. Finally, remember that setting boundaries is a continual process. As your relationships evolve, so too should your boundaries. Reassess them periodically to ensure that they are aligned with your values and that they continue to serve your well-being. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you struggled with setting boundaries in your life? How do you enforce them in the face of pushback? Feel free to share your experiences or questions in the comments below the video. I'd love to continue the conversation with you. 6. Embrace the power of silence. One of the most potent ways to deflate someone's ego is to embrace the power of silence. In many situations, people with fragile egos seek validation through conversation, argument, or emotional responses. They expect you to react to their provocations or engage in a power struggle. However, one of the most effective Stoic strategies for handling such individuals is to simply remain silent. Silence not only denies them the reaction they crave, but also helps you maintain control over your emotional state without getting swept up in their drama. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of controlling one's speech. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reflected on the idea of not wasting words or energy on trivial matters. When faced with someone's inflated ego or manipulative behavior, silence can be incredibly powerful because it avoids giving them any emotional fuel. It's like a shield that prevents their words from penetrating your peace of mind. Silence in the face of provocation also forces the other person to confront the reality that their attempts to control or manipulate you aren't working. For someone with a fragile ego, silence can be disorienting. They may be used to sparking a reaction, whether it's a defensive answer or an emotional outburst. By refusing to respond, you send a subtle yet powerful message: I will not be controlled by your ego. This lack of response is often more impactful than any argument or defense you might put up, as it refuses to acknowledge the false narrative they're trying to create. Another aspect of silence is that it gives you time to reflect. When you don't immediately react to what others say, you create space between stimulus and response. This allows you to reflect calmly on the situation and decide how you want to act, rather than being driven by emotional impulses. In the heat of the moment, reacting impulsively can lead to unnecessary conflict or regret, while silence gives you the opportunity to maintain composure and choose the most constructive response. Moreover, silence allows you to retain your energy and mental clarity. Engaging in fruitless arguments or emotional exchanges can drain your emotional resources. By practicing silence, you protect your peace and avoid getting caught up in unnecessary battles of pride. The Stoics teach that preserving your inner tranquility is one of the highest virtues. and silence is a key tool for doing so. In summary, embracing silence is a powerful Stoic practice that helps you resist the ego-driven provocations of others. It gives you the upper hand by denying the manipulator the reaction they crave, preserves your peace of mind, and gives you the opportunity to respond with clarity rather than impulse. What are your thoughts on using silence in difficult interactions? Have you found silence to be an effective tool for handling egos? Share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below the video. I'd love to hear how you've used silence in your own life. Cultivate empathy, not sympathy. A powerful way to weaken the influence of someone's ego is to cultivate empathy, not sympathy. While sympathy involves feeling sorry for someone and perhaps trying to fix their problems, empathy allows you to understand their situation without becoming emotionally entangled. This distinction is crucial when dealing with people whose egos might seek to manipulate or control your emotions. By approaching their behavior with empathy, you can maintain your composure, avoid getting caught in their ego-driven drama, and still navigate the relationship with wisdom and kindness. Empathy, as the Stoics saw it, is about recognizing that all humans face struggles, challenges, and internal battles. However, it's important to remember that empathy does not mean accepting or condoning negative behaviors. Instead, it means recognizing that their actions, particularly ego-driven ones, are often rooted in deep insecurities, fears, or past wounds. In practicing empathy, you acknowledge that their inflated sense of self-worth or manipulative actions come from a place of vulnerability or inner conflict, not from a place of power or superiority. When you approach someone with empathy, you do not take their ego-driven actions personally. For example, if someone tries to belittle you or assert dominance in a conversation, instead of feeling attacked or retaliating, you recognize that this person may be compensating for their own insecurities. The Stoics believed that many of our negative behaviors, such as arrogance or manipulation, come from a place of weakness, not strength. By practicing empathy, you see past the surface and understand that their behavior is a defense mechanism, not an attack on your worth. This shift in perspective is crucial for managing your emotional state. When you feel sympathy for someone, you might be tempted to rescue them, become overly involved in their struggles, or take on their emotional burden. However, this can lead to you sacrificing your own peace and energy. Empathy, on the other hand, allows you to remain emotionally detached while still offering understanding and support. You can acknowledge their pain or challenges without becoming emotionally enmeshed with their ego. This is key to maintaining your inner tranquility and not allowing their ego-driven actions to disrupt your peace. The Stoic practice of amor fati, the love of fate, can be helpful here. It teaches us to accept and empathize with life as it is, understanding that everyone has their own path and struggles. Rather than resisting or becoming frustrated by someone's ego or negative behavior, you learn to accept it without judgment, recognizing that it's part of their journey. This acceptance allows you to remain unshaken by their actions and to maintain your emotional equilibrium. In summary, cultivating empathy instead of sympathy allows you to navigate relationships with more compassion and understanding without getting swept up in others' egos. It enables you to remain grounded, maintain your emotional distance, and still engage in a positive and respectful manner. What do you think about practicing empathy in your relationships? Have you noticed a difference in how you approach people with ego-driven behaviors? Feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below the video. I'd love to hear from you. Conclusion: mastering the art of indifference for inner peace. In conclusion, adopting the Stoic principle of indifference towards others' egos can transform your ability to maintain inner peace, navigate complex relationships, and avoid unnecessary emotional turmoil. By practicing the tips we've discussed, whether it's maintaining emotional distance, refusing to react to manipulation, focusing on your own growth, setting boundaries, embracing silence, or cultivating empathy, you can develop an unshakable sense of tranquility that is not dependent on the egos or actions of others.